वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। My dear Lord, please guide us all that we can learn the path of pure bhakti from the heart and example of your devotee. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for coming today. And we continue our discussion on the song Markine Bhagavad Dharma. And we'll discuss this theme of what Prabhupada is planning now. So we have discussed, broadly speaking, each of these verses. We have divided the verses into three parts. So, or rather, two parts. In the first verse, we broadly discussed about how the Prabhupada's vision is a vision of his appreciation and gratitude. He's seeing what facility may not be there, but what he's saying, the opportunity at least is there. So, just to go down somewhere. Where do you want me to put it here? Yeah. Then you should go here. So then after that, so which mic is going for the audience here? This one or this one? No. One is for recording. Both are for audience only. Okay. Can everybody hear me? Okay. Thank you. So first I talked about the appreciation of Srila Prabhupada, that he's saying that Oro Krupa Koile Krishna. And then after that, he's expressing his conviction that Krishna must have some plan for me. Ache kichu karya tabe ei anumane. Nahi ke nuani ben ei ugrastane. But this conviction is not so much of a matter of certainty, it's more a matter of curiosity. Yes, Krishna, you must have some plan. And then after this, he is giving his diagnosis. What is the problem? He says, Rajastamo gunera sabai yachana. Na Vasudeva katharuchi nahi se prasanna. So if we will draw upon certain metaphors consistently. So if we consider the metaphor of a doctor, which you have referred to earlier, the doctor is going to some pandemic hit area, ultra red zone or something. So it's there, okay, at least I got there, I got the opportunity to save people now. And then there's confidence. There must be some strategy. There is disaster everywhere. And they might just be going for a alcoholic drink outside, and they see where devotee dancing in Kirtan, they also start dancing. And they experience something special. And they may actually, even in their alcoholic stupor, they may experience some spiritual ecstasy. And then they may come back and, hey, what's that I experienced yesterday? I want to experience it. And then they come and they start off bhakti. So somebody can be in Tamaguna, somebody can be Rajoguna, somebody can be Sattva-guna. From wherever they are, they can get a glimpse of bhakti. In that sense, they can start bhakti from anywhere. However, for sustaining bhakti, bhakti is not just a one-time experience. It's about a regular relationship with Krishna. And for sustaining bhakti, some amount of sattva-guna is required. Because sattva-guna is what is associated with maintaining or sustaining. So if somebody just wants to, I want to go to temple whenever I feel good, I do kirtan whenever I feel good, and sometimes I do it and I feel good, from any place they can do it. But if they want to develop a relationship with Krishna, then that involves doing some sadhana. That involves making some commitment and sticking to that. So that requires certain levels of sattva. And that's why, as devotees, for example, when we have our morning sadhana or we have certain rules that we are expected to follow, the idea is this will get us to certain level of sattva. And then we can practice bhakti more easily. So when Srila Prabhupada went to America, and we'll talk about some of the incidents in his life as we move forward. But initially, when he went to America, most of the audience there, which he encountered, every part of the world has sattvic, rajasic, tamasic people. Every part of the world. Sometimes we reduce people based on a particular attribute. Like we may say that somebody eats meat or somebody drinks alcohol, therefore they're tamasic. Not necessarily. That particular behavior is tamasic. But a person may eat meat, but otherwise they might be polite and kind and charitable and quite clean otherwise and orderly in their life. So yes, that particular behavior is tamasic, but other behaviors in other aspects of their life, they may be sattvic also. So sattva, rajas and guna, tamas in many ways has nothing to do with spirituality directly. We can have a tamasic theist and you can have a sattvic atheist. So an atheist may actually be concerned about the environment. An atheist may be concerned about society and humanity. And a religious person might be actually very narrow-minded and ill-tempered and violent. So the modes are material in one sense. Now they shape one's receptivity to spirituality. When Prabhupada went to America, he's seeing that these people, especially now, he's not encountered the counterculture till now. But just based on what he has heard and what he's observed, what he knows, he's in this place. The moods of passion and ignorance are very prominent, and that's why Vasudeva Ruchi Nahi Se Prasanna. Now, Krishna Kirtan in the sense of music and singing, that everybody can appreciate. At the same time, if one has to understand the philosophy, it's interesting when the word katha is used in our tradition, it is not necessarily about pastimes. So, I was in Canada and they had organized a Krishna Katha program. I had done a 3-day program. And one person came after our first class. He says, "This was, I wrote a Krishna Katha program. There was no Katha in this program." So, my classes tend to be really philosophical, analytical. So, often Katha comes in just like to give an example sometimes. It's not so much like classical Katha center. But Katha, when Prabhupada himself was not much of a storyteller. That was Prabhupada's life itself was an inspiring story, probably one of the most inspiring stories in human history. But Prabhupada himself was not elaborately tell pastimes. So Katha refers to in this subject of discussion. So discussion about Krishna. So Bhagavad Gita is philosophy, but that's also Krishna. Prabhupada's discussion Katha done by Krishna. So it is basically discussion about Krishna. So that discussion, to appreciate that, if somebody is too much in Rajoguna or Tamoguna, they will not be able to appreciate it. So that Prabhupada is seeing as an obstacle. And we'll later on see what Prabhupada is, his diagnosis is, people have no taste for Krishna. And later on his strategy will be what? He'll say, just people just hear about Krishna like regularly. Veera Haya Shune Jadi Kane Barabar. So he'll come up with the, after coming up with the diagnosis, the prescription, the strategy for administering it, he's going to come up soon. Just complete this point that about Rajas, Tamas and Sattva, that the three gunas, a person can start bhakti from anywhere. Now, we can also talk about the Varnas, say now Kshatriyas or Vaishyas or Shudras. Now, as devotees, we may say all of us are Vaishnavas. And that is true. At the same time, we all have our particular nature. That nature is used for Krishna's service. But that particular nature, that particular swabhav will be there. So is it that everybody has to become equally sattvic to practice bhakti? Is that everybody who comes to Sri Prabhupada's mission or Krishna consciousness has to become a Brahmana. Now, Brahman, of course, not by birth we're talking about, by Varna. Yes, we have Brahman Diksha. At the same time, our Swabhav might be in a particular way. So the point is not so much to identify that this person is this Varna, or this person is this Varna, this person is this Varna. That's very difficult to identify. And sometimes people say, oh, for some people it's very easy. But quite often it happens that we may say one particular attribute of a person is in particular Varna, but another attribute we say this is completely different. So the point here, when Prabhupada is talking about Rajastama Guna, he's not bringing Varnashram over here. What he's saying is that wherever we are, we need to get taste for Krishna. Prabhupada's point analysis is not, oh, there is Varnashram is absent. That's not his analysis over here. His analysis is because of the lower modes, people will not have taste in Krishna. People will not find joy in Krishna. So, if you consider the Gita, the concept of the modes is introduced right from the 3rd chapter itself. The Tribir Guna, Prakriti Kriyamanani, Gunani Karmani itself. The 3rd chapter itself introduced. The first elaborate description comes in the 14th chapter, where the whole chapter is about the modes. Now, after that, in the 17th chapter also it comes. And then, after that, in the 17th chapter, Krishna talks about mainly 4 things. He talks about Ahar, Anna, then he talks about Yagya, Dana, Tapa, and then the 3 modes. Then, after that, in the 18th chapter it comes. And 18th chapter, Krishna talks about various things in the modes. He talks about karma, he talks about karta, he talks about jnana, he talks about buddhi, he talks about dhruti. And the last thing he talks about is sukha. In the 18th chapter, the discussion of modes is from text 21 to text 39. And the last thing, 37, 38, 39 verses, it talks about sukha in the 3 modes, sattvic sukh, rajasic sukh, and tamasic. So the whole analysis of the modes, it can go very technical, but eventually it is, if you want to understand which mode a person is situated in, you have to see where are they finding their happiness. Where is their happiness coming? So the problem comes is that when we are a Rajoguna Tamoguna, we cannot find happiness in Krishna. Now, we might get some happiness, but quite often the happiness is more in Krishnetara than in Krishna. Like I said, somebody comes, even somebody does kirtan, the remembrance of Krishna during kirtan will not give them as much happiness as the applause they get after they have done kirtan. Somebody is doing deity dressing. Now, this is not to criticize. It is to contextualize. There's a difference. Somebody does dressing of the deity. The dressing of the deity will not give them as much happiness as others praising them. Oh, you dress the deity so nice. Now, we all need some recognition, some encouragement in life. That's natural. It's not wrong to seek that, because we all want to know whether I'm doing a service, whether it is of value or not, whether it's appreciated or not. Should I do more of this service? Should I do something else in life? It's okay. That we can see that as appreciation which guides us. But if that becomes the sole basis, this is the most important thing, then it becomes a bit problematic. So Prabhupada, so we could say the gunas, that the obstacle that the gunas create is they shape our conception of happiness. And when our conception of happiness shaped in a particular way, so then it becomes very difficult. So when Prabhupada came to America, he came to what is called as the counterculture. And in the counterculture, it is a remarkable phenomena in the history of America. Let's look at that.
तबे जदि तब कृपा होए है तुकी तबे जदि तब कृपा होए है तुकी सकल संभव होए तुमी से कौतुकी सकल संभव होए तुमी से
So essentially what is being said? The problem is that people don't have taste for Krishna. And he is saying that Krishna, by your mercy, they may develop that taste. So let's look at the two concepts in this. The ahaituki kripa. Now ahaituki, this is translated often as causeless. Now this is not a causeless interruption. Okay. So causeless does not mean, in one sense, there is no cause. So many times when words are translated from one language to another language, ahaituki is translated as causeless. So it does not exactly mean no cause. One way to understand it is that the cause is too less. Causeless means that whatever cause might be there for something is too less. Like some beggar comes and asks for some charity. Now the beggar may ask earnestly, desperately, but when the charity is given, then at that time you cannot say the beggar's asking is what qualified the person for the charity. So one devotee showed me a cartoon once. He said, one person asked another person, can you lend me 500 rupees? The person who was asked said, thank you. What do you mean thank you? Thank you for believing that I could have 500 rupees to lend to you. So generally the idea is that when we seek something from someone, we believe that that person is capable of giving it to us. That implicit assumption is there. But asking is like, one thing is we do a job and ask for a salary. Okay, I've done this much work, I expect this much salary. But when somebody is asking, it's requesting, it's begging, then we may arrange various material factors. But none of those factors necessarily bind Krishna to give the mercy. So, do our actions matter? Yes, they do matter. So, how sincerely we do our sadhana? Now, Prabhupada is saying, Krishna, your kripa is ahaituki. But Prabhupada, we'll see the future verses. He is not saying, okay, I'll sit passively. Whenever your ahaituki kripa comes, then everything will work out. Now, he's himself going to do something. So, our efforts in many ways are to show Krishna that I want your mercy, Krishna. But at the same time, while we are doing our efforts, it's important to remember that our efforts alone don't result in the mercy. So sometimes there is a understanding of mercy becomes very passive. Whenever Krishna gives mercy, like some people say that, why don't you come to the temple? He says, जब भगवान की कृपा होगी तब आएगी. So whenever Krishna's mercy will be, जब भगवान बुलाएंगे तब आएगी. So when Prabhupada says in a lecture, भगवान ने 5000 साल पहले बुलाया सर्वधर्मान परित्यज्य. Krishna has called 5000 years ago. He said सर्वधर्मान परित्यज्य. So the idea is that when we talk about mercy, mercy can be at multiple levels. Like just getting the opportunity to know about Krishna, that's mercy. Becoming interested in Krishna, that is mercy. So if you want to understand the mercy, we can go to the point of from Adav Shraddha Sadhu Sangha Bhajana Kriya. Now we go forward. So just having some Shraddha, that is also mercy. Getting some Sadhu Sangha is also mercy. Starting Bhajan Kriya, that is also mercy. Now getting to the finding Anartha Nivritti, that's also mercy. And like that, we can go to Bhava and Prema. Each of these is mercy. Now, we could say that when we are doing Bhajana Kriya, it's mostly our endeavor. Yes, it's true. It's our endeavor, but get the opportunity to get the support to do that, to be able to become consistent in that. For all that, mercy is required. So at this stage, when Prabhupada is speaking, Krishna, you please have your mercy. Please have mercy on me. This ahaituki kripa. That does not mean that it's our endeavor is not important. It's important, but not sufficient. Like in maths, we have this kind of necessary but not sufficient. So I won't use the word necessary over here, because Krishna's mercy can come upon someone without them doing anything at all. But that is the initial dose of mercy. Eventually, they have to do something to reciprocate. So it's important that our endeavor be there. But it's not necessary that it's not that this is sufficient. So this concept of mercy, let's look at it from two perspectives. That it is we humans, we humans can earn it. And so let's put it this way, our human endeavor, it is all important. It is all important. So sometimes it is that God helps those who help themselves. That is true, but the point is that God can help those who don't help themselves also. Isn't it? Duryodhana was not helping himself in any way. Duryodhana was doing nothing to help himself. Still Krishna went to help him. So Krishna can give our human endeavor. So God helps those who help themselves. Does not mean that those who are not ready to help themselves, God will not help them at all. But eventually, so this is initial drop of mercy, like Rajas, Tamas, Sattva, Tamas, anywhere a person is, Krishna's mercy can come to them. So our endeavor, it's not that it is what will make Krishna help us. So it is all important, or the human endeavor is not important at all. It has no importance or zero importance. In between, as I said, it is important. Now that human endeavor can come in many different ways. Important, but not sufficient. Now when you talk about the human endeavor, it can refer to the endeavor of the seeker. It can also refer to the endeavor of the seer. Now in this verse, Brahmanda Brahmite, Hona Bhagyavana Jeev, Guru Krishna Prasade Paye Bhakti Latavi. In explaining this verse, Prabhupada would often say that it is our responsibility to make others Bhagyavan. That we give the opportunity for Krishna Bhakti. So when we do, when you have done such beautiful Rath Yatra festivals, when we go out and try to preach, we try to introduce others to Krishna. What are we doing? We are giving people the opportunity to become Bhagyavan. If they take it or they don't take it, that's up to them. So it is their endeavor is also there, our endeavor is also there. And then gradually by this, eventually they will come to it. So Prabhupada is here talking about the ahetuki kripa by which people will develop taste. Now that does not, we see future verses, what he says, I am going to speak Krishna Katha, and the mercy that Prabhupada is asking is that you make my words understandable to them. So Prabhupada is going to do his part, but he is going to speak the message of Krishna, but whether that message of Krishna is going to enter into other hearts, that is going to depend on Krishna. So he is going to ask for the mercy in a very specific way. So ahaituki kripa does not mean that we don't do anything. We understand that what we are doing is important, but it is never sufficient. So this understanding also aligns with another verse, the important verse in 4:11 in the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna talks about reciprocity. Ye thamam prapadyante tam sathaiva bhajamyami. So often this principle of reciprocity and the principle of mercy, especially ahaituki kripa and reciprocity, causeless mercy and reciprocity, how do they align? So the idea is that the mercy is causeless in the sense that Krishna's response may be reciprocal, but it is not proportional. What do I mean by difference? Reciprocal means I do something for you and you do something for me. That's reciprocity. But proportional would mean, say, I do one thing for you and you do one thing for me. But Krishna's response is not necessarily proportional. Many of us know that theme that when we take one step towards Krishna, Krishna takes 100 steps, 1,000 steps towards us. So Krishna is that the reciprocity is there, But the mercy does not override the reciprocity. The mercy means that the reciprocity is there, but additionally, it's not proportionality. Often Krishna's uh, response is disproportional. Disproportional means he can give far greater mercy than our endeavor. So reciprocity, the mercy comes it is that Krishna's response is disproportional. Now, disproportional is often used in negative sense. Like we do a little mistake, somebody disproportionately get angry with us. But here it's used in a positive sense. So people who showed a little interest in Christianity, it's amazing how they made progress in Bhakti. And during Prabhupada's time, it happens even now also. So this is when Prabhupada is asking for ahiti krupa, he is not saying that I will not make endeavor. So the ahituki is that Krishna's mercy can be far, far more than what we are putting in the effort. Okay, let's take the second part and then we'll have question answers. Now, sakala is sambhav hoye, tumi se kautuki. Krishna, you can do everything. So this raises the question of Krishna's omnipotence. Krishna, you can do everything. So what does everything that can Krishna? What is exactly the challenge for Prabhupada? Prabhupada later on say this verse that nachao Prabhu, nachao se mate. Please make me dance. So in general, there is what we do, there is what we can do, and there is what we can't do. So when we talk about Krishna's omnipotence, like Arjuna, when he had to reach Jayadratha, he did everything that he could. And then what he could not do, Krishna did. So it is not that we don't do what we can. So while Prabhupada went to America, Krishna, he's praying to Prabhupada, he's praying to Krishna that please make me dance. But Prabhupada, Krishna is actually arranging the stage for Prabhupada to dance. So what is that stage? In many ways, we said that the audience was very difficult for Prabhupada. But broadly, we can look at three things: the cultural, the religious, and the political. So let's get the other two. The cultural is the biggest thing. The political is that it was just 2 months before Prabhupada landed in America that America loosened its immigration regulations. Between 1965 till after 9/11. Till 9/11, American immigration regulations were quite loose. And a lot of immigrants came to America. After 9/11, they started tightening it much more. Now it is very difficult to get an American passport eventually. But so Prabhupada came just for 2 months. And he kept extending, kept extending. And how was he able to extend? They had, just for various political reasons, the American government felt that we need more labor and we want people to come from abroad. So around 1920, after the First World War, they had tightened the regulations because there were Japanese people there and they had a lot of suspicion and other things. But after around 1965, they loosened it. And that led to people being able to come. Now, of course, now Prabhupada, when he came, at that time there were hardly any Indians in America because previously the immigration regulations were not that easy. It was not easy for Indians to go to America. Now there were a few Indians, but they were mostly people who had settled in, people who had gone maybe 2-3 generations before to the Caribbean islands. And they had gone as mostly indentured labor. The British colonizers, they had taken people to Indians there to do work, labor. And over a period of time, they had become maybe a little, got some wealth and they had immigrated to America. But otherwise, there were no Indians. Right? So politically, things were working out. Now, religiously also, so politically the immigration was loosened. Now, religiously, it was in 1965, again, just 3 months before Srila Prabhupada came to America, that Catholic Church passed something called Vatican II. Till that time, the Catholic Church officially held that anybody, any religion other than the church and Christian religion, that is the path of the devil. And that is the path of the devil. So all gods other than the Christian God are not just, they're not God, they are actually manifestations of the devil. And anybody who follows them is going to go to hell. So because of this, there is a certain level of, now individually then people were seeking, but at an institutional level, at a governmental level, it has increased. Like, now that did not affect Prabhupada immediately in 1965, but 1966, 67, 68, 69, Prabhupada got opportunity to speak in colleges, and many interfaith scholars, they started investigating. Okay, you want to know about Hinduism? There's a Hindu group right here. Okay, what are they doing? So they were inquiring, but the major factor was the counterculture. So the theme I'm taking over here is that when Krishna is working, see, miracles can work in two ways. Generally, the word miracles is used to refer to something which breaks the laws of nature. Like, say, Krishna lifting Govardhan hill is a miracle. So if somebody asks, Krishna has to lift the Govardhan hill. Say, if I have to lift this phone also on one finger, it's difficult. I have to find the center of gravity of this phone and put my finger exactly there, and then I'll be able to hold it. So somebody asks, how did Krishna find the center of gravity for the phone? Not the phone, for the Govardhan hill. Now Krishna does not have to find a center of gravity because he's the source of gravity. So, Gama Vishyacha Bhutani Dharayami Hojasa. The laws of gravity were under. So when we say miracles, they are, sometimes people say miracles are unscientific. Well, not exactly. Miracles are not against science, they are above science. They are not against. We accept that science has a principle that Hetu Nahanena Kaunte Jagat Viparivartate. Krishna has arranged this world in such a way that it works according to certain principles. And those principles may be uncovered by science. But Krishna governs them. So when the normal workings of nature are broken, that is, or suspended, so that is one way of understanding miracles. But sometimes miracles can happen not above nature, or they can also happen within nature or through nature. So when Hanuman went to Lanka, he jumped across the ocean. That was a miracle where the normal laws of work functioning are suspended. Prabhupada went to America, he went by Jaladuta. There was nothing miraculous in the sense of breaking the laws of nature. But the result that Prabhupada achieved was miraculous. It's a miracle. You may say that it's so amazing that something came up. So miracles is used in both sense. So what I'm talking about is that the stage on which Prabhupada is going to do his dance, this is that stage was being prepared by Krishna. In the counterculture, what was this counterculture actually? It had many factors. That one of the key factors was that there are people who, see, America after the First World War became very prosperous. America sold weapons to everyone. And America also had some casualties, but not as much as Europe, because America was not the theater of the war much of the time. So America became very prosperous. And the children who were born, the 1945, the war ended, then the soldiers came back, and the children who were born after that, by 1960s, they were in their teens or they were young adults. And previous generations had struggled to just attain a basic level of the great American dream. A house with a white picket fence and typically having some amount of prosperity. Previous generations may be very difficult, but these people, they got it on a platter. Now we think of America as a land of prosperity, but when the settlers, when the as they call the pioneers or the explorers, when they came from Europe to America. At that time, according to many statistics, the average lifespan in America was 40 years. Very few people, because there was a very difficult time. People would be traveling and there was nothing over there. So 40, 45 was the average lifespan. But then America built its prosperity. So now these people, they already have prosperity and they felt, okay, what more of it like? Okay, we have wealth, we have some security, we have, what more is there to live? There has to be something. And they were exploring. And they were disillusioned with education, they were disillusioned with religion, they were disillusioned with the family structure, they were disillusioned with the whole idea of how life is lived normally. They wanted something more. And so there was these three factors with respect to the cultural aspect, that there was, one is the disillusionment, that they were disillusioned with prosperity. Now, how many of you are familiar with the word disillusion? Illusion is familiar. Now disillusion, uh, it does not necessarily mean free from illusion. What it means is it is no longer attractive. So disillusioned with material prosperity, with material success. That this does not mean necessarily they become spiritual, but that is become something. Now there had been other spiritual teachers who had come in the past, and there was a lot of openness toward Eastern spirituality. India was seen, both India, okay, Hinduism and Buddhism were seen as esoteric religions, and people wanted to know more about it. So there's an openness and curiosity toward Eastern spirituality, and that was for various reasons. But a third factor which came into the mix was, there's the idea that drugs is the gateway to spirituality. There was this drug called LSD. So these people who take the drug LSD, they give a new full form. Like you have some acronyms and you change the acronyms. So LSD was the League of Spiritual Discovery. So anybody who takes LSD join this League of Spiritual Discovery. But their idea was that through drugs you will go towards spirituality. Now this came from various places. The Native American tradition had the idea that peyote is a plant extract that is prepared. If you take it by, you go high, get some mystical insights. From India, there are some spiritualists who take bhang. So now where exactly this idea came from, that's a complex history. But the idea was that drugs is the way to spirituality. And now this idea started grabbing the mainstream, grabbing the youth. And so people who took drugs, these people were not like drug addicts. They're people who were seeking spirituality, but they were into drugs. So we could say that the whole thing was the counterculture was a very large part. Many youth over there were a part of the counterculture. And within that, there was a fairly small, highly visible group of people who were called the hippies. So now sometimes the whole counterculture is equated to the hippies. The hippies, what were they? That they were people who were not really so much searching for the spiritual as rejecting the material. These were the people who often got into drugs, and not so much for the spiritual purpose, or maybe they got into drugs for spiritual purpose, but afterward the spirituality was forgotten and drugs only remained. So they were the people who got into drugs. And by 1968 itself, 1930, by 1970, Prabhupada is writing many letters very saying, no, we don't want to be identified with the hippies. That we are not hippies and we don't want to be identified with the hippies. Prabhupada, because initially there was actually a genuine spiritual search. But what happens is that even if the nature of addiction is, somebody may start off for some other purpose. But eventually, the addictive substance comes in and people get caught. So, like in the West, there is the idea, drinking is not a bad thing. Becoming a drunk is a bad thing. Hmm? The idea is drink, but don't get drunk. Now, is that possible? Well, yeah, there are people who do that. But the problem over there is that you drink and you think, oh, I'm only a social drinker. Oh, only when there's a party, when there's a group of people, and just to belong to the group I drink. But then slowly that starts getting into that. So it becomes like an escape mechanism. And initially I drink when there are people with me, I want to hang out with the people. And after some time, I don't want to hang out with myself. So I'm lonely and I start drinking. And once it becomes an escape mechanism, then it becomes deadly. That's how the drugs, they were started as a spiritual search, but afterward they just became getting people in. So when Prabhupada came there, he initially, if you see, uh, he initially was in Button, Pennsylvania, then he came to New York. And from New York, he came to the Lower East Side, which was the place where the counterculture was there. And this was the unlikeliest of audience. Let's give three quick examples of how unlikely this audience was. That in America is a few countries where guns are legally allowed for ordinary citizens also. So in the counterculture, there would be many trigger happy people. Trigger happy is the adjective, that is, they're happy to pull the trigger. That's the word. So it's like they get triggered very easily. So there are both kinds. There were some people, the youth, who were they were hippie counterculture. They had sometimes guns for self-defense and they would use it. And there were others who were local vigilantes or local citizens. They felt, oh, these are hippie, they will come and attack us, and that's why we should have guns. So when Prabhupada was there in the Lower East Side, first when he went there, this Dr. Mishra and others said, Swami, this is no place for you over there. There is no place for a person like you to go. When Prabhupada went there, he said that, Swamiji, if you go there also, like, just stay in your room, don't come out of my room. Because it's a high crime area, it's a dangerous area. And in that area, Prabhupada would go out for walks. And he would just fearlessly go out for walks. Now, it was not that there was a constant crime, but it was deadly. So it is also an area where it was that Prabhupada, people would take drugs and people would just sometimes pass out and in drugs only they would die. Now, Prabhupada would walk along and sometimes the only time people would come would be if there were people lying on the streets. It is a terrible place. But what Prabhupada saw over there was that these people were actually spiritually invested. So often we talk about Srila Prabhupada as fools and rascals, very strongly condemning. But Prabhupada was not judgmental in the sense of dismissing people. If he had been judgmental, he would have found 100 reasons to not even consider the people of the counterculture. He would have probably considered that these are the most unqualified people for him to preach to. But he saw that one spark of spiritual interest. And one time it happened, Prabhupada, the devotees had, this was a little later, but the theme is that how Krishna was actually creating a stage for Prabhupada. But it was not the easy stage to dance. The stage was there and the audience was there, but still reaching the audience was not very easy. They were interested. See, there's a difference between being interested in spirituality and receptive or ready for spirit. It's like I'm interested in something, but what the price it takes. Okay, I'm sick, I'm interested in that medicine. Doctor says, okay, but you have to give up all other food and you have to eat this diet for the next 3 weeks. Okay, I'm not that interested now. So people were interested, they're not really ready to pay the price, what it was required. So Prabhupada, when he was in 22nd Avenue, there was like a small raised platform on which Prabhupada would sit. The devotees had constructed that, like a wooden platform and Prabhupada would sit and people, audience would come and sit. But in those days, because the idea was that drugs is the pathway to spirituality, somebody would take drugs. And after taking drugs, they would speak something. There's a special term for such people. They were called LSD saints. Exactly, the idea is that how this person has, by taking LSD, has got access to some different domain. And from that domain, some wisdom is coming. So if a person on LSD high have to speak, everybody has to become Shanta and listen to that person. So one time Prabhupada was giving a talk, and one person from the audience said, Swamiji, I want to speak. Prabhupada said, questions after the class. I want to speak now. Prabhupada said, questions after the class. And this person got up and just climbed out the dais and came and sat next to Prabhupada. He said, I want to speak now. Now Prabhupada looked at him, Prabhupada looked at the audience, and Prabhupada just picked up the kartal and started doing kirtan. Throughout when the kirtan was going on, this person was sitting and looking at Prabhupada. And everybody looking what is going to happen. Prabhupada just calmly continued the kirtan. And then after kirtan got over, that time Prabhupada didn't have much time. So they would just have an apple, which they would cut a small slice and they would give the food, apple as prasad. So Prabhupada got the devotee award. And Prabhupada, they also got a knife. Prabhupada cut the apple on the dais itself. And everybody would come and take a little bit of apple. So Prabhupada cut a piece of the apple, and the piece of the apple and the knife, he both extended it to this person, sitting right next to him. Everybody fell silent. Because this hippie, he looked at the apple, he looked at the knife, he looked at Prabhupada, he looked at the apple, he looked at Prabhupada. In fact, he extended his hand. And then everybody breathed a sigh of relief when he picked up the apple. But this one Prabhupada disciple, he told me that. He says, that was seeing this that convinced me this Swamis were real. That is, who would have thought that is a way to convince people, show my life would happen. Prabhupada got an audience that was interested. But actually, to win them over after that, it was extremely difficult. So, just because a stage is there does not mean in any way that the dance performance is easy. The dance performance was still extremely difficult. There was a stage, Krishna was arranging a stage, but Prabhupada himself did extraordinary work. So, Sakala Sambhava Hoye Tumi Se Kaupiti. When we say that Krishna is going to do wonderful things, yes, if we consider this is the world, Krishna is above us, and now Krishna can do wonderful things around us. So Krishna can create an opportunity for us. But Krishna can do wonderful things through us all. Krishna's miracle working potency can be both ways. So God's will happens around us or to us and also happens through us. So if you look at the history of how Srila Prabhupada will work out things, it is a history of remarkably miraculous things. And his confidence is, now you can do anything. So he's not just saying, Krishna, you will make things happen around me. His prayer is also, Krishna, you will make things happen through me. So what exactly is his plan that we'll discuss in a future session? I'll summarize. Today we discuss three main themes. The first theme we discussed is about the concept of the modes, the gunas, how the gunas can, there are two conceptions of the gunas, that they are progressive, where we need to go from the lower guna to the higher guna. But they are also, from the spiritual perspective, equivalent. From anywhere, we can move towards Krishna. So there is Rajas, Tamas, Sattva, and there is transcendence, or Rajas, Tamas, Sattva, and transcendence above. So both these, for starting, it's from anywhere. But for sustaining, we need to come towards Sattva Guna. So we talked about how gunas, they affect how we see things, how we seek things, and how we process things internally. Jnanendriya, Karmendriya, and Mana. Perceive, pursue, and process. Then the second thing we talked about is that about mercy. So especially when we say causeless mercy, it does not mean there is no cause. What it means is the cause is too less. So we have to make our endeavor, but the cause is too less. So our endeavor is not all important. Endeavor and mercy, we can put it as. So our endeavor is not all important, but it is not also no importance, zero importance. It is important, not sufficient. So we have to make our endeavor in the best possible way. And lastly, we discuss the concept of miracles. That Krishna can do everything. Now, miracles can happen beyond nature. That means by breaking the laws of nature, or they can happen within nature or through nature also. So through nature means like situations come out in a wonderful way by which things work out. So we discussed Srila Prabhupada, the stage on which he was going to dance. If you consider Srila Prabhupada as the expert dancer, the stage, we discussed the politically how immigration laws opened just before Prabhupada came. Religiously, how the church also became somewhat more open to the Vatican II, and especially culturally, how this counterculture came up. And in the cultural aspect, we discussed how the audience was, they were open to understanding, but that does not mean it was not open, not easy. It was extremely difficult because they were not ready to commit. Prabhupada had to work extremely hard. So there were people who they were interested in Eastern spirituality, they were with the material prosperity, and they had this whole fascination with the drugs. So that drug, that was what made it especially difficult. So Prabhupada worked through that. So Krishna's will, when it works in our life, Krishna's plan can work around us, but Krishna can also work through us. So around Prabhupada, the stage was being created. But through Prabhupada, the dance was being done. And by both of these, the most extraordinary outreach initiative will manifest, which we'll see future verses. Thank you very much. Hare. Is any one quick question? Yes, please.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Go ahead, please.
Yesterday you were telling, even you are giving an example like mistakes happen, but Krishna is so expert, even the mistakes he makes, his plan get executed. So like in that sense, sometimes like the mistake is done by the person, or is there a situation where Krishna makes that person to make the mistake so that the plan he get executed? For example, to see the example of Kaikeyi. So when
Okay, yeah, I got the
Kaikeyi,
question, yeah. So if somebody makes a mistake, is it Krishna making them do it, or is it they making the mistake and Krishna using that mistake? So, Bhaktivinoda Thakur talks about how Shastra can be understood multiple levels. Especially talks about Krishna Leela, the fifth canto of the Bhagavatam, 10th canto of the Bhagavatam. So based on that, I use the 4-point framework that when we look at the events in scripture and we try to understand, we can have 4 levels. One is at the literal level. This is what happened. And at the literal level itself, it is this event happened and this happened. In that, the story itself is entertaining. And so when somebody is looking at the story at the literal level, their main concern is the suspense, the drama, the plot twist. So sometimes in movies, if they have a review, this is spoiler alert. Because if you know the story, then the fun is lost. So at the literal level, the main focus is on the newness and the entertainment value. So many people, when they hear Krishna Katha, this is the literal level. This is what happened. Then there is at the ethical level. Ethical level is where we learn some lessons about decision making. Okay, this person did right, this person did wrong. So at the ethical level. The next level is the allegorical level. Now, Krishna Lila itself is not allegory, but it can be understood at an allegorical level. Like, say, the 6 children of Devaki who were killed before Krishna and Balram were born, they're said to be 6 anarthas. So, not everything in scripture is an allegory, but some things can be seen from an allegorical perspective. And the last is the devotional perspective. In the devotional perspective, we see everything is just Krishna's Leela or Krishna's plan. So we see that our acharyas themselves explain things at different levels. So if you consider the Gita's context itself, so Prabhupada sometimes says that Arjuna was put into illusion by Krishna so that the Gita could be spoken. So this is at which level? Devotional level. So that's true, but we also see Srila Prabhupada in the first chapter, the second chapter, one of the I think the second time or third time when I read the Bhagavad Gita, this struck me, it just didn't make any sense. In the first chapter of the Gita, in the purports, Prabhupada is actually praising Arjuna. He's saying that Arjuna is thoughtful, Arjuna is not rushing into action. And such a thoughtful person is eminently qualified to receive the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita. And the second chapter starts, and suddenly Prabhupada starts criticizing Arjuna. Arjuna is in tears, Arjuna is ignorant, tears are a sign of ignorance and attachment, everybody has skin disease, and Krishna is speaking this Bhagavad Gita to free Arjuna and everyone from this attachment and illusion. So now, is Arjuna wise? Is Arjuna thoughtful? Or is Arjuna attached? So, but basically, say Arjuna is thoughtful or Arjuna is attached. This analysis at which level? The ethical level, isn't it? If Arjuna's illusion is being orchestrated by Krishna only, then why bother with Arjuna is being thoughtful, Arjuna is being attached? It's all Krishna's arrangement. See, the point is, if we look at things at a devotional level, we can look at them, but there is nothing to learn over there. And nothing to learn as guiding principles for our life, what we should do and what we should not. It is, at this level, it mostly relish the past. Relish the past. Now, at the ethical level, when Prabhupada is drawing lessons, it's important that we focus not so much on who is right, because these are great characters, and we are not meant to judge those characters so much. Rather than focusing on who is right, we focus on what is right. So that means that why is Prabhupada giving two opposite points about Arjuna? He's giving us lessons from the various contexts. So one context is, if you have to make a major decision, don't just rush into the decision. But then our decision-making process may be ignorant, and we need knowledge to make better decisions. So many places we will see different perspectives. When Chitraketu is cursed by Parvati, initially Prabhupada says that when Parvati was sitting on the lap of Lord Shiva, the sages were not laughing at her. Nobody was objecting. Why did Chitraketu have to object? So the great souls are objecting. Why are you objecting? But then, so he says that it was inappropriate for him. It was wrong for him. But then when Parvati curses Chitraketu remains very calm. Narayana Parasarvina Kutashchan Bipyati. That thing comes. And Prabhupada in the purport says that there were great sages over here. They did not think that Chitraketu had offended Lord Shiva. Why did Parvati have to curse? So was Chitraketu right or wrong? Was Parvati right or wrong? The point is not who is right. The point is what we can learn. So one point is that if we see something happening which we can't make sense of, don't laugh at others. Don't mock others. Don't be disrespectful if you can't understand something. Try to clarify, don't be disrespectful. Similarly, if we see that somebody else is doing something which we think is offensive, don't just be impulsive or aggressive and condemn that person. Be careful. Be careful before we rush to judgment and action. So the idea is, at the ethical level, we can learn a lot. So to answer your question, in summary, that exactly how the characters in Krishna Lila behave. Is it that the Lord is taking away their free will and making them act in that way? or is the Lord putting them in particular situation and they make particular choices? That is very difficult. The point is, we, rather than judging where the characters are, we focus on what level we can look at it and what we can learn from it. So is Yashoda Mai really an illusion? Does he really forget that Krishna is God? See, how is the Vishwarup coming in that child's mouth? So the understanding is that the Yogamaya. She's never an illusion, but she's put in illusion. That's a devotional understanding. Now we can also learn something. So Brahma Vimohan Leela we see. So did Krishna put Brahma into illusion, or did Brahma want to test Krishna? You can go further. Now, maybe the desire to test Krishna came in Brahma's heart by Krishna's range. You can go deeper and deeper into it, or not necessarily deeper. You can get caught. It can become messier and messier. So rather than trying to understand, like one devotee was telling me, I was giving a class on how Duryodhana misused his free will in the Shanti Dut. So he said that the same Krishna who was speaking externally to Duryodhana to convince him to not fight, that Krishna from within Duryodhana's heart was telling him, don't listen to me. So I said, where is the praman for that? So no, he took a decision. So unless Paramatma gives him, nobody can take it. No, the Paramatma is not responsible for our decisions. Paramatma gives us remembrance. Paramatma gives us forgetfulness. Paramatma gives us knowledge. But based on that, we take decisions. So if somebody is alcoholic and wants to recover from alcoholism, and they go to a place where there's alcohol is there. Now they can get the remembrance of how alcohol is so dangerous, or they can get the remembrance how alcohol is so delicious. Now, which remembrance will they get? It depends on what is their desire. When Krishna says, I give knowledge, remembrance and forgetfulness, that is based on yethamam property. What do you desire? If the desire to drink is strong, then how alcohol is dangerous? That apohanam. And how it is delicious? That will be smruti. And then jnana will be, okay, how can you drink by which nobody will catch? But on the other hand, the desire to stop drinking is strong. That even if the temptation comes, at that time, the smruti will come, Matpa's smruti will be, I got so much trouble by doing this in the past. Don't do this. And the apohanam, the taste will not attract us. Even if I have to go into this tempting situation, how can I navigate this situation? How can I get out of the situation? How can I survive this? That jnana will come. So Krishna never overrides our free will. He doesn't override the free will even of pure devotees. When we say they act according to Krishna's plan, that is, how it exactly works out is mysterious. Like yesterday I talked about how Prabhupada's books are written by Krishna. But are they not written by Prabhupada? Both factors are there. So when the human acts as an instrument of the divine will, exactly what is the human component and what is the divine component, that is very difficult for us to figure out. So rather than trying to focus, where is this coming from? We can focus more on what is the level I want to approach it. Do I want to approach it at the ethical level? Do I want to approach it at a devotional level? That question that was asked yesterday about, if our spiritual master or somebody is giving us instruction, is it their particular desire? Is it Krishna's desire? That is very difficult to know. So we have to decide at what level do I want to approach it. Do I want to approach it at a devotional level? Do I want to approach it at an ethical level? At an ethical level means a dharmic level. So Prabhupada, spiritual master told him, why don't you preach in the English language? Prabhupada approached at the ethical level. I felt that, my family is there, my wife is there, my child is there. I cannot. He wanted to preach, he wanted to carry out an instruction. So we can decide which level we want to approach it. It's not wrong to approach. So we are not judging person so much as we are judging at what level can I approach this, and at what level of what kind of lesson I can take from it. Does that answer your question?
Yes, actually, the question is like that is the spiritual, but when we take decisions, like we take some decisions and we do something, but later we think that, oh, why did I do that there? And the consequences we pay.
Oh God, I should have asked the question. I should have questioned the question before giving the answer. Okay.
Is it a plan? Or like...
Okay. See, in general, we should not use uh, Krishna's, like, we should not never justify our mistakes as Krishna's plan, isn't it? So if we have made a judgment error, we need to acknowledge that. We try to learn from that. But we shouldn't be like perpetually beating ourselves up. Oh, I'm a terrible person, I made a terrible mistake. Yes, sometimes it can be a mistake. So we plan for a program and we say, let's go for 200 people, but 300 people. Now somebody else has suggested, let's make for 300 people. No, Prasad will go waste, let's make for 200. But then what do we do? Is it, is it, oh, 100 people. Those people who don't get Prasad. Krishna wanted to test them whether they came for Prasad or they came for Krishna. Now, we shouldn't be justifying like that. Yes, that is a philosophical perspective that can be taken. Okay, future, when we have program, let's make more Prasad, we can always distribute it. Let's not, let's ensure that we don't have less. So we can draw a lesson like that from there. So we try to learn so that we can improve our judgment and improve our service to people. But if a mistake is leading to us, we beating ourselves up constantly. Even if that mistake happened, Krishna can bring something good out of it. So let me accept it and move on now. So it's not that because these 100 people did not get prasad, and because of my mistake, those 100 people's spiritual life is permanently ruined. They will never become devotees, and I am responsible for that. No, yes, we should try to learn, but it is not that any one jiva's mistake can permanently ruin somebody's life. I remember one devotee, where was this? It was in UK. He gave, in a class, he gave a little argumentative answer. See, what happens is, we are all inspired by different preachers. And we are all inspired by different preachers. Sometimes, when we are not yet understood our particular swabhava, then whichever the latest preacher we have heard, that preacher becomes the most influential person for us. See it? So, if we have heard some classes from a very confrontational, fiery preacher, then we imitate that. So this devotee gave a very confrontational answer to a particular question. And because of that, did a lot of controversy, problem. That person became almost an enemy of ISKCON. And this devotee became so scared. He said, I'll never do any preaching only. What if I give a wrong answer and ruin preaching? Like, no, don't worry so much. No, we learn, we should avoid making mistakes. But don't think because of a mistake I should stop serving. So in that sense, a mistake doesn't throw us out of Krishna's plan. So our mistakes, to summarize this, our mistakes are not Krishna's plan. But Krishna's plan can work even through our mistakes. Thank you very much. Okay. You want to take this? Yes? Continue this.
Sometimes we are very clear that what has happened is a mistake. Some decision is a mistake. Many times it happens that we are not sure whether it's a mistake or not, but then after we make the decision, we are not happy with it. We don't know really it's a mistake or not. So how do we get through it?
Sometimes it's very difficult to know. So it's sometimes only time reveals. See, I talk about these three things, that there's intent, content, and consequence. No need. Three aspects are there. Like, what did I do? Why did I do it? And what was the result of it? So how do you decide what is a mistake? Sometimes we may say, this particular answer to this question, that itself was a wrong answer. Maybe it is scripturally wrong. So the content was wrong. Sometimes it may be that we give answer which is right, but it has a wrong effect. So you may decide maybe this answer could have been given in this way. Maybe I should have used this language. Sometimes you may decide based on the effect. We come to know that this was a mistake. Sometimes we may give a particular answer because we want to just show off our scholarship, how much I know. So maybe the intent is wrong over there. So in general, it's difficult to know. So in real life, whether it's the content that is the problem, the intent that is the problem, or the effect that is the problem. If it is the effect, then only time will tell it. So sometimes you just have to wait and watch. Okay, this is the decision I took. And will I take the same decision next time? Maybe not. I don't know that. So sometimes you may decide that, okay, if I'm put in a similar situation, maybe I will consult someone else before I take a decision. So that is a safer option rather than simply judging is it right or wrong? Because we don't know. Okay. Like right now, I don't know whether I should continue this answer or stop this answer. So sometimes phala na parichayate. So and the phala doesn't come soon enough. So what do? We just wait and try to see what we can do the best. We don't have to wait for certainty before making a decision. Now, in which area of life do we apply that standard? Isn't it? Unless I'm certain, I will not make this. Unless this is the best career for me, I'm certain I won't take this career. I won't go to this college. Unless this is the best job for me, I won't take a job. Unless this is the best person for me to marry, I won't marry. Well, once we start, that doesn't mean we recklessly take these decisions. But in no other area of life do we wait to explore and reject all options, other options till we come to the best. We have to take a reasonable leap of faith. The same applies in serving Krishna also. Based on whatever understanding we get of a particular situation, take a reasonable leap of faith. So just because we are serving Krishna does not mean that we can abandon the normal process of reasoning for decision. We don't have to subject it to extraordinarily high standard nor extraordinarily low standard. Because I'm doing this for Krishna, one devotee was taking me for a program and he was going very high above the speed limit. I asked him, bro, how much is the speed limit? He said, here it's 80. So you're driving at 120. He said, no, you are Krishna's devotee. Krishna will protect. So I told him, and Krishna, when you drive above the speed limit, Krishna leaves the car. So, whatever normal caution we take, you should. But is it that because you are driving a devotee, you don't want to make any accidents? The speed limit is 80, I'll drive at 25. We can't do that also, isn't it? Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, let us express our gratitude to Pavanagaru and Mataji. They have opened their house, so such a wonderful class we had in there. So let us thank them by chanting great Hare Krishna Mahamantra.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna.